I was looking at LinkedIn.
Mm.
10 years at IR.
Yeah, yeah.
How does that happen?
Yeah, it's the longest I've ever been at an organisation, and I guess a lot's changed in that time. I've had 3 different roles, so I've been CMO there for the last 3 and a bit years, nearly 3 and a half. Joined as head of demand generation, and then became the head of corporate marketing, and then got promoted to CMO.
I want to talk about the ABM program that you ran, and
Yeah,
obviously you've introduced ABM at IR. And from our initial conversations, it was a rocky road at the beginning. Can you maybe give a little bit of background about what happened that you introduced ABM into IR, and what was those kind of early iterations of it that it looked like?
yeah, sure. Yeah, look, I mean, we're not Robinson Crusoe trying ABM in the B2B world, but we'd had a few runs at it over a number of years, and with varying levels of success. I think the part of the challenge that we had as to why it probably didn't work was probably around a lack of alignment between sales and marketing. So I think one of the pitfalls of ABM is that it's first of all it's called account-based marketing, and it does involve sales heavily. In
Mm.
fact, it relies a lot on sales. Um, and I think sometimes as marketers, we can talk about ABM, and then when you talk to the sales team about it, if you're calling it ABM consistently, it can sometimes get misconstrued as, here we go, is another marketing program that I have to try and implement for them, and so there was that. I think we also tried to potentially get too cute too soon and do hyper personalization when we probably weren't ready for it.
I want to hear about that as well.
Yeah, so we took some learnings from that. So we went down that path, and then we sort of pulled back and did broader and
And just for my reference and everybody else's,
mm,
when did you approximately start with ABM at IR?
first time we attempted ABM was probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So you've been on this journey for about 6 years.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Alignment didn't work out.
Mm.
Can you talk a little bit more about that in terms of what happened?
The what we because we're a global organisation, we've got about clients in 46 countries around the world. Being headquartered here, but the majority of our clients are overseas, in particular in the US. About 65% of our revenue comes from the US. Getting that alignment when you have sales teams in other geographies, and we do have field marketers, one in the US and one in Singapore, who look after the APAC, Middle East, Africa region. Some things can tend to get lost in translation, and our software is sold to large enterprises, so the sales cycle can be long and the sales pursuits can be quite complex. If you're a salesperson under the pump, sometimes you'll gravitate towards an opportunity you think will close, rather than potentially following the process that gets put in place from an account-based approach.
Mm.
We would go in with good intentions, and then when we probably didn't see results as quickly as we liked, we would deviate. And whether that was marketing would change things up, or sales would go after what they thought was the correct account. So that was some of the issues. That was some of the issues we had around alignment. And what that meant was sometimes sales were going after accounts that marketing didn't know,
Yeah. Right.
or we were potentially advertising and creating demand in accounts that the sales teams
Just weren't going
weren't
after.
aware of. There's multiple reasons for that. As I said, like as a salesperson, when you're under the pump to hit a number, and it's getting towards the end of the half or the
You
end of the year,
gravitate towards wherever the money is closer to closing.
that's right. And it's easy for marketers to sit there and say, "Hey, you should follow the program," but when you're trying to close deals, everything else is white noise other
Yeah.
than the deal that you can see at the end of the tunnel. So I think that was part of the challenge we had, and it's also a learning experience. So you get better at this as you go along. There's lots of literature you can read and lots of podcasts you can listen to about how account-based works, and so they give you a good framework. But ultimately, until you start executing it within your own organisation, you don't know how it's going to
Yeah.
run. And you can get frustrated, right? You can think, oh yeah, I'm a good marketer and we've got a great sales team and this is going to be we're going to execute this, no dramas. And then, but when when the rubber hits the road, the wheels can fall off quickly.
Yeah.
If you got to accept that you're not going to have it right 100% of the time, and it's not going to be right the first time. So yeah, we've been on a journey for a long time, and things have changed. Personnel has changed over that period. But the biggest single thing that ultimately turned it around was an improved marketing and sales alignment.
I want to definitely come to that and talk
Mm.
about like what does that look like today. But tell me a little bit about getting too cute too soon.
Yeah. So, yeah, if I go back to what I said about what's in the literature, and they talk about, hyper personalization and running adverts for specific accounts, and we attempted to do that. Now we're not a large organization. We're about 150 people. We attempted. We said, here's 5 accounts we're going to go after. They're in the US. Um, we're going to hyper personalize everything for these accounts. And we just didn't have the bandwidth to scale it.
Mm,
And I'd say the patience to play the long game of what could potentially be a couple of years.
yeah.
This is before the 95/5 rule had come into our world. And our solution is quite niche, and it's a large enterprise we go after. So the market that we appeal to is not broad.
Mm,
Um, and when you're trying to appeal to, let's say, some of the largest banks in the US, and there's 5 of them, to get a meeting and then an opportunity and then a sales pursuit, that's a long
yeah.
time. Yeah, in terms of getting too cute, we probably tried to hyper personalize things too much. And
Give me an example.
so, like, developing a series of ads for, and this is going back 5 or 6 years, like LinkedIn tile ads, for example, which had the company's logo on there, and um, dedicated landing pages. And now we did get some engagement from those accounts, but we were very much in the still operating in the world of get someone to show interest, make them an MQL, get them on the phone. And I'm not sure if you've read much of Kerry Cunningham's work, who's at Six Sense, around account based, how buyers hunt in packs, and
Mm,
just before that stuff had been published. And that's hindsight's 2020 vision. But at the time, we're like, well, this isn't working. We only gave it a few months, and we're like, well, we can't get any opportunities. And so we felt like we weren't as a marketing team, we felt we weren't executing properly. The sales teams lost patience because they're like,
of course. Yeah.
why isn't this not working? You're doing these ads we've done this for a couple of months. We can't even get a meeting with these organizations. And yeah, I said hindsight's 2020, and we probably should have continued. And
Yeah.
probably at not in we probably should have not involved the sales team so heavily so early, if that makes sense. So done some work around building up some awareness in those accounts, telling the sales team what we were going to do. So if an opportunity
Yeah. And
bubbled
make
up,
sure
then
the accounts are right accounts. And
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then bring them in to say, okay, we've been working on building awareness in these accounts for the last 6 months. We think that this organization's in market. I think these might be right for us to reach out to and talk
Mm.
to, rather than deploying everything at once.
I think that's such an important point because, and I find that it requires a certain maturity inside of the company to say it's okay to run this for 12 months,
Mm.
because we're going after these larger accounts. Was that a problem, in the sense of a lot of organizations want results really quickly, and it might be sales, but also might be leadership as well. Was that another kind of battle that you had to win, or that understanding was there with the leadership that no, we understand this needs to kind of take its time.
No, that certainly was one of the challenges we faced. To be fair to the leadership at the time, we probably didn't understand it well enough ourselves to say to them, "Hey, this is going to take some time."
Mm,
At the same time, if I draw a parallel with another program we ran at the same time, we also went to leadership and said, we this is going to be a little bit boring, but we said we need to invest in SEO, and it's going to take because we understood that better. We
Yeah,
prepped
right.
them and said,
Okay.
this is going to take time. We're going to have to invest in the long term. And it took some cajoling to get them over the line, but we did get them over the line. And so that was a program that saw really good success but we knew we kind of understood a little bit better, and
Mm.
we explained it better. So leadership were more comfortable with it. And I think with the ABM, we probably didn't.
I think it's harder as well, right? With SEO, it's like you're like, these are the keywords. This is our position today, and maybe it's really bad, but it slowly starts to improve.
That's true.
So you can very clearly show progress
Mm.
along the line. Where again, there's definitely ways that you can show progress along the way with ABM, but I find, I don't know what your thoughts are, but it's harder. It's more challenging to say we're at position 96 today on this keyboard, and we were at 100 and something, and now we're at 70, and so on and so forth. um Obviously, again, some of the platforms are doing a lot of work on that front. You talked about Sixth Sense and Demand Base or whoever it is,
Mm.
but have you found a system to very clearly show progress along the way to show that we're moving in the right direction? But hey, this is going to take 12 months.
So we don't use a tool like a Six Sense or a Demand Base.
Expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
pricey.
We're a small marketing team of around 9 people, and we look for sort of any indicators that we can along the way. So we don't, for example, we don't have an intent tool. We did have one, but because our solution is so niche, we just didn't see great
Mm,
results from it. Um, so we look for activity from within accounts that we can kind of use the tools that we've got to track. We have an SDR function that sits within marketing, and so we get feedback from them around, are we positioned in the accounts? Do they know who we are? We kind of do that before we get sales involved now. Um, so there's multiple things that we will look at. And at the same time, this is one of the challenges I think marketers have at the moment is, how do you juggle, and the leadership team that I work with now is really understanding of how this process works. Also juggle the idea of, sales, like we need leads and we need MQLs, and it's been an education process to explain, like, yeah, okay, and we do still measure that stuff, but
mm.
we're not KPI'd on that. We're not gold on the number of MQLs anymore.
Wow. So that's out the door.
Yes, so
And
we don't KPI anyone on the number of MQLs.
okay,
What we look for is, we report it and we track it, but we don't KPI anyone on that. Is account engagement within the target accounts that we've identified, and our ultimate goals are pipeline and revenue. So they're every marketer's gold on pipeline and revenue, and KPI'd around the company revenue and the company pipeline.
interesting.
Mm.
I feel like we've touched on a few of these, but I want to talk about then the pivot. So initially rolling this out, some of these challenges with sales alignment,
Mm.
getting maybe too personalized too quickly, bringing sales team a bit in too quickly.
Mm.
Let's talk about the pivot and then how that shift happened in the organization. What were the things that you started to change um, to basically improve the process over time?
First of all, we started calling it account-based everything. Heidi, who's our field marketer in the Americas, came up with that name because I was reluctant to, like I said, I don't want to call it account-based marketing. I want to
Mm,
call it, so we call it ABE. I know there's some people call it ABX, but yeah, account-based everything for us. And we had a new head of sales in the US join, and after he'd been in for a couple of months, we talked to him in the lead up to this financial year. So we run on the Australian financial year, being ASX listed. So a couple of months out before the start of this fiscal, I had a conversation with him and said, look, we want to try this program. Let's talk openly and honestly with each other around what this looks like. And it won't be 100% right when we launch it, but it will improve as we go on. He was very supportive. That's been the biggest change. He then later got promoted to head of sales globally around, I think, August of last year. So just as we got into the financial year. And yeah, that alignment between myself and him, Marco, has been really what's driven that. And then also the buy-in from his heads of sales who, along with us, said, look, it's about following a process and it's not going to work immediately. It's a slow burn. Yes, you have to keep your eyes on the prize in terms of opportunities that are in the pipeline now, but this will gain momentum over time as long as we follow the process and continue to work with each other. So hold each other accountable. And if sales feel that what we're delivering is not right, then let us know. Don't just cut us
Yeah.
off and go and do something else. And same. If we feel we're not targeting the right accounts or we're not getting the information from the sales teams to do that, then we hold each other accountable. And so there's shared dashboards that we have. There's shared reports we look at. We've invested as an organization a lot of time. We said this was our go-to-market approach. And as a result of that, we invested time and energy in the tools to support the sales teams to automate outreach and all those different, sales navigator and other tools.
Mm.
That alignment really sort of flicked the switch for us. And we've seen, we've seen really encouraging signs early on. Like I said, we effectively started this, I'd say probably November last year by the time we got all our ducks in a row. And we've seen some really encouraging early signs. But the rubber has to hit the road when we start seeing the revenue convert.
Yeah. Got it.
Mm.
Okay. On that note, I want to talk about like what did the program look like?
Mm.
But before that, you mentioned something interesting where you said marketing has brought a SDR that reports to marketing. Tell me a little bit about that.
The SDRs have reported into marketing for a number of years. We've had in-house SDRs, we've had external SDRs, we've done different pilots here and there, and we have like a hybrid model now. So typically the SDRs reported to the field marketers out in the regions. In our APAC region, we have in-house SDRs who report into the field marketer there, and then in the Americas and Europe, we've moved to an outsourced model where we use an SDR agency that has been proven really successful for us. But we get a dedicated person, so that agency gives us, let's say, Mike, and Mike works for us and us alone. I've actually been to their offices in Denver, and you walk in and they've all got a cubicle, and our SDR's cubicle is all decked out in IR, and he wears an IR polo shirt to work. And so they're all, for all intents and purposes, they work for you directly. And we tried models previously where we had outsourced to, an SDR group, who were probably doing other clients at the same time.
Yeah.
And so that didn't work for us. And so when we started our relationship with this SDR agency in the US, maybe 12 months ago, I was really reluctant to do it again. But I let them know in no uncertain terms that, I'm really reluctant to do this.
Just a heads up.
We'll give it a shot.
You're going to be under the microscope.
Yeah. And the models worked really well. And in fact, the referral for this SDR agency came from the head of sales because he knew someone who.
Right.
So he said to me, look, have you thought about doing this? And I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot.
How come it's not under sales? What happened there that the decision was made that the SDR function is going to be under marketing?
When I first joined the organization, we did have BDRs or SDRs reporting into sales. And I guess the rationale for changing it was that we see them as part of the qualification process. And whilst our account execs do generate their own opportunities, there's quite a requirement on marketing to generate opportunities for them. And so we brought them into marketing to qualify the leads and accounts that we would bring in. It also meant that we sort of were masters of our own destiny, if that makes sense. So it's easier to say, "Oh, we're bringing in great leads," and
sales is not converting.
And sales is not converting, and sales say, "Well, all the leads are rubbish." It broke that apart because the aim was so if you give sales a lead and they say, well, this is no good, well, then 100% it's your fault because it's gone through your own SDRs before it gets to the account exec.
And like the marketing unit has had a conversation with that lead to be able to assess whether
That's
you
right.
become the assessor of whether it's a good lead or not.
That's right. That's
Mm,
right. And so as part of the process, so our SDRs can't create opportunities. They will set up a meeting for the salesperson. And this is, we're not unique here. This
mm.
happens in a lot of organizations. And then ultimately the salesperson decides whether there's an opportunity
Yeah,
in
there's
that
something
account.
there.
What was happening previously was we would give them, look, this person's an MQL or this person's reached out from the website. That was it. It was sort of like, job
Passing
done.
it over to,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the old classic throw it over the fence and see what happens. And so having it just allowed us to control a bit better the quality of what we were passing through to
Mm,
sales. Now, is it always 100%? No, we make mistakes, but the quality of what we ended up passing through to sales improved as a result of it. Plus, the other thing is like we build the nurture programs, we build the outreach sequences, and so which we were doing previously. We would help when they reported when the
in the
BDRs
sales
reported
unit,
into
yeah.
sales, but you couldn't control the messaging, and so this way it was a lot more, I guess, programmatic approach to it.
Yeah. And
Now,
you have a lot more control.
yeah, that's
And
right.
and if you don't like it, you're like, don't stop doing it. But if in the previous situation, if it was sales, they're like, no, no, keep it. Well,
Mm,
they
mm.
report into that department.
I've had this conversation with a number of people, and over the time that the SDRs have sat within marketing, there's been discussions around whether they should sit in marketing or whether they should sit in sales, and I think it ultimately depends on your organisation and how you want to
Mm,
structure it up. I don't think there's a one size fits all answer to it, but I think from our perspective, it's been great having them within the marketing team, and they work very closely with their account executives
of
because
course. Yeah.
like I said, we're not a large organisation, so the SDRs know the account executives. Even our outsourced SDRs know the account executives because they're responsible for setting up the meetings with them, and they turn up to the meetings. They don't just hand it off. And I've been speaking, to Mike all the time, and suddenly I'm meeting with some person I've never met
Yeah,
with before.
exactly. The
So,
handover needs to be as
mm,
smooth as
yeah.
possible. I want to dive a little bit deeper into the actual program that you executed. In our previous chat, you were talking about it was a 12 to 16-week program that you and the team executed. What were the kind of fundamental elements of that program?
And so it started with obviously with lots of learnings and saying this is what we think is what a good program looks like, and helped design it with sales. So we didn't design it in a vacuum. So we said this is what we think a good process looks like. It may not be 100% correct when we launch it, but we can iterate as we go, and it's based on what we've done, what we've learned, and et cetera, et cetera. It involves very heavily the sales team saying, these are the key accounts I want to go
Mm,
after, working on profiling those accounts properly for a reasonable amount of time, and then pre-warming those accounts with advertising and other bits and pieces. The plan is that they activate an account each week. So let's say Growth Colony is a target account. You drop into the hopper after a few months of warming up. You drop into the hopper, and so the first 2 weeks is the SDRs will try and reach out to you, and that's social selling, emailing, calling, whatever that looks like. Now, if they don't get you guys on the phone, what they will learn is a little bit more about the profiling. So they'll keep adding to the profile of that organization. If nothing happens, so if they get hot, if they something bubbles up out of that conversation, then they'll drop into, okay, we've potential to have an opportunity here. Let's
mm,
pull them out of the process. But if not, it goes into sort of another week of the account exec looking at all the notes again, learning from the SDR what they have found out about the account. And then it drops into sort of a outreach sequence that we use our marketing automation platform to help the sales teams with. So that runs for about 8 to 10 weeks, and involves varying different tactics. So emailing, calling, outreach, social selling.
Even the nurture, like it sounds like it's a. Let me summarize what you said and tell me if I got this right.
Yeah, yeah,
So there is a pre warm or warm up phase, or I think you said pre warming
yep.
of an account, and it
Mhm.
sounds like that goes for a while. Did you say 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, so when we started, obviously the accounts weren't advertised to for that period of time, but there are some accounts now that have been advertised for 6, 7 months.
Yeah, right. Okay, so they're going through that phase, and then there is a 2 week window that the SDRs are like, all right, I'm going to go hard.
Yep. So,
Calls,
so the
emails.
salesperson says, "We're going after Growth Colony. That's the account I'm activating this week." So
Oh, so that's a salesperson's call.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
which
yeah.
account that
Yeah,
the
so
SDR is going to focus
they'll
on.
say like here's my, let's say, 50 accounts that I'm going to activate, one a week for the entire year. Here they are. This is the order I'm going to do them in. Now that can change, but they'll say, okay, this week I'm activating Growth Colony account. So the SDRs work on it it all gets loaded into the systems.
Mm-hmm.
The SDRs work on it for 2 weeks, multiple different people within the account. Then after they've done that piece of work, if they haven't managed to generate any interest, it goes back to the salesperson for a week, and they get to digest the notes and what's happened in that 2 week period. And it then gets activated in our marketing automation platform, like a sales outreach sequence. So not a nurture program, an outreach sequence that involves multiple different touches. So they'll get a task that says, reach out to these people on LinkedIn. Send this
How is that different than the 2-week outreach that the SDR does?
So the SDR likely do a lot more calling than what the salespeople will do, and the
Yeah.
SDR is, I would say, more intense, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
got it. Okay. It's closer to the cadence sounds like it's closer together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Got it. You said something I want to clarify. So are you saying the second kind of outreach that happens after the AE analyzes the account, does that happen by the AE or again, it's back to the
No, it's the
SDR?
AE. It then goes to the
Oh, I
AE.
see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they do the outreach for the next 4 to 6 weeks, spaced out a little bit more, coming directly from them. And as I said, there's multiple different channels that we use.
Yeah, right.
And the positioning advertising is still running at this time. And over that period of time, if an opportunity bubbles up out of it, then great, they come out of that. If nothing comes of that, there's another break, and then we sort of huddle around. Okay, what was the result of the outreach on this particular account? What did we learn? The other thing you might learn is that, okay, well, they're in contract and they're not coming out of contract for 2 years. So
Yeah.
if that happens in the first 2 weeks, then it gets pulled out.
Right. Okay.
So you're building your intelligence as you go along as well. And then so at the end of that period, we sit down and say, okay, well, this is what we've learned about this account. Let's put them into a standard nurture, and we'll just keep them warm
For the next 2 years
well, yeah, well,
until
it could be. I mean, and it's that we talked about the Ehrenberg Bass Institute before about the mental and physical availability. Which, when I talk about that internally with my peers, I say it's we've got to be remembered, we've got to be found, and it could take 2 years for that particular account. We see some of our sales pursuits can take 3 years for what we sell.
Yeah.
But if there's a burning platform and a client finds you, whether it's through SEO or digital advertising or whatever that may be, because we all understand it's a whole ecosystem, even though we try to use attribution models to try and pin it
Good
down.
luck with that. Yeah.
You've got to be, as I said, you've got to be remembered, you've got to be found. So the plan is that, you keep those accounts warm, and then maybe in another year, depending on what you've learned, you put them into the hopper again. And so we haven't hit that point. Have we executed on that plan 100% for every account? No, we've learned things along the way. One of the things we're working on at the moment is how do we automate some of the sales exec activities?
Yeah. Do you see any drop off from that angle with regards to the AEs, kind of that 5 to 6 weeks that they're supposed to do some outreach and activities? Do you find that sometimes maybe that drops off, just like you were saying earlier, that again, there might be a deal, it might be something, and those kind of activities are left untouched?
Yeah, so we have dashboards that track that, and
Okay.
which was actually requested by one of the sales managers. Like I said, the support from the sales organization in building this program and making this program be successful
Yeah, wow.
has been amazing. And so we can see that, and there's different levels of engagement from different reps. So some reps love it, some reps don't love it. And that's life.
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
are going to get on board and think this is fantastic. And also we get feedback from them that say, oh, I can't activate account for the next 2 weeks because I'm working on closing a deal. So you got to be flexible. You can't say, well, we agreed that we would do one every week. So it's
Good
having
luck pissing off a
yeah,
salesperson.
yeah. So that relationship's really important because it means that people stay motivated as well. So
Yeah.
so We would rather a salesperson comes and say, "Hey, look, I'm not going to be able to do any activation for the next 2 weeks because I'm working on closing this big deal." Then they just go dark, and we don't know what's going on, and vice versa. Vice versa. We want them to come to us and say, "Hey, look, this stuff's not really working. Like, I
Mm.
think I'd like to change this, or I'd like to change that." So that I can't stress enough how important that alignment and that radical candor communication is in making this successful program.
What would you say from implementing the new program? Because I definitely want to talk about the ROI of it, but implementing the new program, what would you say has been the biggest learning from this new round of the model that we just discussed that it surprised you or you weren't expecting it?
I mean, I understood the importance of alignment,
Mm,
and people talk about it a lot. But I would say until you've actually seen really good alignment, you probably don't know what it looks like.
yeah, right.
So for me, that's been the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I liken it. This is probably not a great analogy, but I likened it to, when you get sick, you say, "I've got the flu." But when you really get the flu, you're like, "Oh wow, now I've really got the flu." And like alignment is like, "Oh yeah, I think we've got good alignment." But when you get good alignment, you're like, "Okay, now we do have good alignment."
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. It's like
Yeah,
when the sales from people jump on the call and they're engaging and share information, you're like, oh wow, what is going on here? This is different
yeah.
than every other session.
Yeah, yeah. So that's probably the biggest thing. The other thing is, I think early on, the first iterations of the program, if things didn't work, we got upset because we're like, well, hang on, why isn't this working?
Mm,
And I kind of touched on this earlier. Depending on the organization you're in, it will work differently. And so if things don't work first up, you just got to be patient. And I know there are business requirements and there's revenue and you've got to be patient with yourselves to trial things because not everything's going to work the
yeah,
first time.
yeah.
And having everyone on that journey and understanding it's a process and that things will improve and things will pick up is super important. As I said earlier on, it's like making sure management or leadership understands that this isn't a silver bullet
Mm,
and it takes time to implement. Now, there's probably people out there listening to this thinking, "Well, I need a silver bullet." If you stick to the process and you have good alignment and leadership understands, you will see results.
mm.
Yeah.
How are the results from the program?
Yeah, so, I've been very surprised how well it has gone this year. I should probably not say that. I should say, "Oh, I knew it would work this well," but
Knock on wood.
yeah, but
Don't jinx
we
it.
we over the last 5 to 7 years have seen a for every dollar we invested in marketing programs, we saw about a $40 return in pipeline, and we're on track to double that this
Wow.
year.
$80 for every dollar spent.
Yeah, of pipeline. Now that doesn't it's got to close to revenue. I'm really cognizant of that, but
But it's a kind of like a 1 to 3 close. I don't know if that's the case, but it's like a third closes.
percentages can vary. So, but
Mm.
like in terms of the pipeline generation,
I mean,
uh,
that's an impressive number. It's an 80x return.
it's been quite incredible, to be honest. There's different channels that this activation has worked through. Our partners have played a big role in this,
Mm.
and
And it's been
really,
6 years in the making. I think
yeah,
it's
that's
worth
right.
kind of mentioning that as well. It's
Yeah,
not an
yeah,
overnight, hey, we just got it right. Here we go.
that's right. Yeah, it's
It
like what is it? The Beatles played 300 gigs or whatever
Yeah,
before they.
or Picasso painted whatever hundreds of paintings,
Yeah,
and four of them or ten of them or whatever it is are very famous. It's like I think that's a really important point. Um, what's next? You talked about kind of automating some of the tasks, but from a from the IR's ABM journey, what's coming? What's the next phase going to look like?
ABE, ABE.
AB, that's right. That's right. AB, ABX, ABJ, ABG, account based growth.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot of that, but
yeah. I
yeah,
don't mind that one actually.
yeah. What does the next phase look
So
like?
we're looking to we work with some great partners from a digital point of view, and we're working with them on how does AI fit into this
Mm,
program? For like where can we plug in AI to help automate some of the tasks for us? Is there the ability for our marketing automation tool to further automate some of the activities we're doing? How do we scale the program? We're not going to double the size of the marketing team, and we're not going to have a heap of people to throw at this. So how do we continue to hone the program so that
Mm,
the performance improves? How do we continue to increase productivity, both from the marketing and the sales perspective? And I said, is there a way that is there a role that AI plays in that?
yeah.
I think there is. How do we continue to make sure that alignment stays tight as we introduce new
Of this element, and
variants?
you don't forget the foundations, the fundamentals.
No, yeah, that's right. And like I said earlier, it's like we're not going to be bringing on, hundreds of thousands of clients a year. Like our addressable market is quite small.
Mm,
We address a quite a niche part of the market for our two solutions. So I think the next challenge for us now is how do we get better at converting the opportunities we bring in as an organization. We've sort of proven out the theory around we think account based is the way to go, and I'm sure there are improvements we can make in generating that initial demand. But how do we now work better together as a sales and marketing organization to improve the conversion rate of the opportunities we are bringing in now?
yeah.
Will some of that happen naturally because we're bringing in better qualified accounts that are within our ideal client profile? Potentially, yes. We're going to see how that flows through now. But how do we increase our chances of that being successful as those clients go through that
Yeah.
buying journey to make sure that we increase the conversion rates from stage to stage to stage? So that's probably one of the key things we'll be focusing on this year.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, because obviously you have the pipeline pieces come through and it's 80x. I mean, I'm sure if you want to start to improve that, you would have marginal gains. You would have, you put 1 unit of effort in, but you probably will not get 1 unit of output. You're
Mm,
probably gonna improve that by 10%. It's gonna go 90x and so on and so forth, but it's not gonna be another double. So the next step it, I see what you mean of like, okay, let's shift the effort to further down the funnel.
mm,
Okay, got it. AI,
mm.
it's just not going to be a podcast without talking about AI. So
No.
what is happening in your organization and in your team when it comes to AI? What are you looking at? What's on your radar? What's not on your radar? What have you tried that didn't work?
Mm.
Really keen to hear.
Yeah, so I don't know if you see my weekly Friday I posts on LinkedIn.
I haven't.
You haven't,
No.
need to check that out. So every Friday I put a post up of something I've learnt that week, and so you haven't missed many. I've only been doing it for the last 6 weeks. So today's week 7, so I'll
Okay.
be putting a post out today. But so if I rewind a year, and I was at the B2B Marketing Leaders Forum, and they had an AI workshop, and I was very, I knew this was important, but how do we embrace it within our organization? I've heard various different approaches to how companies have approached AI, where some are saying we just let people do what they want, and in the end, we'll work out what are the best tools. And then other organizations saying, well, we're locking it down to
Yeah.
say Copilot because we're a Microsoft shop and that's all you're allowed to use. And
Oh boy.
I think it depends on, I mean, so if you're a bank and you've got highly sensitive financial information, you
Makes
need
sense.
those checks and balances. Um, if you're a tech company and you've got a lot of developers who are naturally curious around these things, then you don't want to curtail that curiosity, and you want them to potentially bring in new ideas that they're seeing from different tools without obviously putting your entire code base
Mm,
into the tool. So as a marketing organization, we started these things off the back of that called Friday AI sessions, where we'd get together and talk about interesting uses of AI and how we could apply them within our team. And so we had those discussions for some time, and there's a lot of, you read a lot of people post on different social media platforms where you hear people speak and say, if you're a marketer and you're not adopting AI,
yeah,
you're getting
the
left
FOMO,
behind. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Then you go home and you're like, oh my God, I'm so behind. I don't
Yeah,
know what they're
yeah,
talking
yeah. And
about. I'm
you know,
depressed and I'm left behind the
yeah,
train.
yeah. Like, why aren't I up to speed with everyone? And I'll be honest, like so I started doing this thing 6 weeks ago, more so it made me learn more about the different tools. And I mean, one of the things is there's so many different models.
Yeah.
Like, there's ChatGPT and there's Claude and there's Gemini and there's Copilot, and um, it can be overwhelming. So I think there's, as a marketing, if you put it down to the marketing organization, and actually within IR, also the sales team, like our head of sales is really keen on understanding how AI can help improve the performance of the sales team. Improve the conversion rates, improve the velocity within
Yeah.
the
Right.
funnel, all those bits, and improve productivity. How do you as a marketing organization give your people enough leeway to make sure that they are trialing these tools, but understanding that there are still some limitations with the tool. So if you're
Mm,
writing a press release, for example, you can say, "Oh, write me a press release about this," but unless you're prompting it correctly and you're then proofreading it to make sure it's 100% accurate,
yeah.
and
Saying
so
the right thing. And
yeah, and people need to learn that. Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert, not by any stretch of the imagination, but over the journey I've been on the last year, and then starting to do these posts, a month and a half ago, it's really opened my eyes to how little I did know, and that you really do need to learn, because it's easy to say, oh, it's all about the prompting. But unless you actually get
love
in there
that.
and start mucking around with the prompting, you won't know.
It's
And
like sales alignment.
exactly, exactly. It's like getting a bad flu. But I mean, the amount of applications you can use it for,
What are
even
you
just
testing? What's on your radar? What are you playing out recently with?
post I put up last week was around using AI as your career coach and mentor almost.
Yeah.
And so interestingly, I had a couple of people ask me about, can you use it for that purpose? I hadn't tried it, I hadn't thought about it. And then literally within 2 days, I was sent two articles. One was from the Hustle, the newsletter. That
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
was around. Here's a way that you can use it as a career coach. And then another one was from the Harvard Business Review. So someone else wrote an article about it, and I attribute it to, I can't remember their name now. It's attributed on the post that I put up, but I was like, wow, this is quite spooky. And they give you example prompts to use
Mm,
in those two articles. So I'm sort of mucking around with that at the
I
moment.
love that. Yeah, that has been so interesting for me as well. I think my experience on that front is going to create your own custom GPT. Or if you're using Claude, I think they call it projects. Um, and then do a bunch of profiles on yourself, your
Mm,
disc profile, your Kobe profile, and then upload all of these and be like, this is me. And
yeah.
now when you in that custom GPT, when you write to it, it's like it knows fully how you operate, what are the mental models that you might miss or you're very strong at. I think, yeah, the business coaching thing, it's not the business, the personal coaching
Mm,
element, fascinating. Fascinating. And you could do that with a business. You upload some of the stuff in there, and yes, you got to be careful with the sensitivity of it. That's always an issue. Some people are fine with ticking the box and saying, don't train your model on my information. And
mm,
whether that is
mm,
happening or not, that's a
yeah.
different story. But yeah, that's the coaching component is fascinating.
Mm,
I'm gonna check out your post for sure.
yeah. Like the ways that it can be used for different applications, like the coaching, and a friend and I are trying to plan a backcountry split boarding trip to learn how to do stuff in the backcountry, and punch all this stuff into it, and it comes back with, here's a training plan for you, and these are the things you need to pack, and this is the route you should take if you're going from Hotham, and if you're going from Perisher or Thredbo, this is the route. It's mind
Wow.
blowing.
Last thing I want to chat about is around branding. It's a little bit
Mm.
different than all the ABM stuff that we talked about. But I know that you're doing some work on branding as well. Keen to hear your approach on that. What is happening with IR from a branding perspective?
Branding is so important when you're doing ABM activity, because it's talked about being remembered and being found, and that mental availability piece is so important. So IR's been on quite a journey for the last 10 years with our brand. And, 10 years ago, the brand changed. So the company is called Integrated Research. So that's what IR stands for. So the branding changed. I'd been there about a month, and the branding changed from Integrated Research with a little IR to just calling ourselves IR. And our product is Prognosis. So the Prognosis product, which is the platform essentially, has different modules that sit off it. So one for payments processing, and it's all around one for communications is around monitoring the performance of those environments, and one for infrastructure, so non-stop servers that run banks and the like, payments
Got it.
processors, that type of thing. So we moved to IR. There was some consternation within the organisation that we should have called the company Prognosis because everyone knows us as Prognosis. And 5-6 years ago, we had built a cloud platform, and the working name for that internally was starting to get adopted externally, and so we brought in another agency to help us with our brand architecture, and
Mm,
Prognosis became the platform, and our products became Collaborate for communications and Transact for payments and Infrastructure for infrastructure, and still kept IR. But Prognosis was, you'd turn up to client events and you'd get feedback from the field all the time while we're at this event, because trade shows are still quite important to us, particularly in the US. No one knows us as IR. They know us as Prognosis. And so this went on for years. I'm about to finish my MBA, and the marketing component of that is taught where I studied, is taught by the Ehrenberg Bass Institute. So I went and did a full week with them, and it was a real eye opener for me. Like, I worked in marketing my entire life, but to sit down and spend a week with them was really fascinating. And as part of it, as I went through it, I was like, I think we are confusing people with what we've done with our brand. And so we called ourselves IR, but our trading name was still Integrated Research. And so if you Googled us, or if we showed up in SEO, Google called us Integrated Research. They didn't call us
I
IR. And so there was all these different issues we had. And you can't, search for IR. I mean, it's impossible to rank for that. And
yeah.
so after one of the classes, I was speaking to the lecturer, and I was explaining this to him, and he's like, I'm confused. And I was like, yes, I think so. I think we need to simplify this. And what we'd done in the past was we'd get an agency to come in and help us, and they they're experts at what they do. But one of the pieces, I think, we spoke to clients and other bits and pieces, but we didn't actually go out to market and do
Mm,
research. So this time I said, we're going to do some research and actually find out what people think externally. Like,
yeah.
because it's, we operate in an echo chamber. We see that our clients think this,
Yeah,
but
you live and breathe that brand, right?
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And this may sound like 101 stuff, but when you're in an organization, it can sometimes be quite difficult to get research done around the brand, because people are like, oh, brand marketers, here they
We
go.
know what it is as well.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
why should we spend time on that? And
Funnily enough, I was having this conversation with one of the board members, and I gave them my hypothesis around Prognosis, and they said to me, well, there's your answer. That's what we should do. And I said, well, that's what we've done in the past. Like, I want us to actually do some proper research. So we went out and did some market research. It completely blew the hypothesis out of the water, and it completely blew people's minds internally. And what it showed was that, it showed that our marketing had been effective, because most people knew who IR was, and it had greater recall than Integrated Research and Prognosis. But there was confusion that we weren't the same company.
mm,
The challenge we've got now, and this is being led by our head of corporate marketing, Kate, who's ran this research and running this project, is like, how do we consolidate those brands? So we've done some work on that this year. Moving forward, what does that look like into the future? So we're actually about to do the second lot of research, like literally in the next couple of weeks. Part of that is we're going to test, okay, well, has what we've done in the last, 6 to 12 months made any difference?
yeah, right.
And moving forward, there's some messaging that we're going to simplify around who we are and what we do, and we're going to test that as well to make sure that That is right. So we had a new CEO join us towards the end of last year, and he has an advertising background, and he one of the things he talks about is radical simplification. And he's come in and
I
said
like that.
we need to radically simplify our language. And we ran a series of workshops internally around what this messaging would look like, and had input from multiple different people. But now we're actually going to go and test it. And for consumer brands, this is like,
This is every
this
day.
is
Like
bread
they
and
do that all
butter.
the time.
But B2B, we don't do it very often.
And I think it's such an important message what you're saying, because, you know, as you said, it's not that IR is a small company. It's 150 people. It's a decent size, but it's not a 20,000 full time employee bank or a
Mm,
really large organization, and still you see all this value from market research. And I think
mm.
it's fascinating. It's really important to kind of get that message out there, to get out in the market and have conversation with customers.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be expensive.
Mm,
Like, we're not spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on this, but it's important. And also to talk to buyers outside of your clients
yeah.
is important.
Stuart, I have, before we wrap up the podcast, I
Mm.
got a couple of rapid fire questions. The first question I got is, what is one resource that has had a pretty foundational impact on the way that you work or live?
Radical Candor, the book,
Kim Scott.
Kim Scott.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really good.
yeah,
Really good.
without doubt.
It's actually one of our company values, radical candor.
Yeah, well, he only gave me one sentence, so I can't talk too much about it. But our team, and we've done this a few times. Before they released the book, they did a podcast of 23 episodes, and we done this a few times now as teams have evolved. Like, we listen to a podcast and discuss it, and then listen to a podcast and then discuss it. And and I've told so many different people I know about that process. It is foundational.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Second question I have, who are some of the, whatever you want to call them, influencers, thought leaders, experts that you follow and you listen to?
So we talked about Ehrenberg Bass. So there's, Jenny and Byron from them, Mark Ritson, Burnett and Field,
Yeah.
John Lombardi, and
From B2B Institute, from
yeah,
LinkedIn.
who are now at Evidenza.
Evidenza, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
actually getting them on the podcast soon.
Are you? Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, yeah. Have you seen their podcast that they do?
Yeah,
They dress
the
up
one
like
that they look like, I don't know, so it's like a
Renaissance
French,
Italian.
Italian Renaissance.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. There's a podcast called Women in Product Marketing, and I can't remember the host of it though, but it's a really great, and they get women who are working in product marketing in to talk about the challenges they're facing. It's a great podcast. So I'd highly recommend that one.
Definitely check it out. If you could give only one advice to B2B marketers, what would it be?
The B2B marketers play a very important role in the world, and it's a privilege to be in B2B marketing, and be kind to yourself. Um, yeah,
I love it.
it's quite different to consumer, and it's, you're educating people and you're helping people make really important buying decisions. So
Yeah, and I think that sometimes the value of that is like multiple layers deep, and that you might not see it, versus we do this product and people buy it, and this is the value that they get. I think that's such a good point.
yeah, and be creative. That would be the other one. We should be more creative in B2B.
Oh, I feel like I want to dive into that, but I will hold back. Last thing, what excites you about B2B today?
Creativity. I think we've got an incredible opportunity in B2B to be a lot more creative, and I think you're starting to see that from some brands. And you don't need a lot of money to do that. You can bring your own voice and
Flavor.
and flavor to that. Yeah, so that excites me. And like I said, I love marketing. I've worked in it most of my career. And the thing about B2B that I love the most is that, you're not trying to con people. It's all about educating buyers and making sure they make the right decision for their organization. And sometimes that won't be your product, and that's okay. But if you've at least got a seat at the table and you're helping people along that journey, when they go to another organisation, you might be the right product.
Stuart, this has been an awesome conversation. I'm glad you flew down to Melbourne for this.
Thank you.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been great. I really appreciate it. Thanks for catching up.